So the basic thing with Ben Roden going to Israel in 1958 is he got the rights for 150,000 Seventh-day Adventists to move to Israel at that time. And the basic thing is that it was the Lord giving them an opportunity to go over so that they would be free to worship the Lord and they wouldn't fall under the persecution that would come about during time of Sunday laws and so on. And it was an opportunity that was given, so basically to leave those who chose not to go without excuse. And in Isaiah, there's a number of, I could probably put together something to send you. It would just be a couple quotes from Ben Roden where he was explaining what he was doing and how it was a sign to have some of the people go to Israel ahead of time, showing what would happen with the kingdom and showing that there would be a need to go to Israel, as well as giving everyone the opportunity. And there's certain prophecies that deal with that. One of the things, though, that shows exactly what would happen, and Ben Roden pointed this out, is in Isaiah chapter 30, starting at verse 15. It says, "For thus saith the Lord God, the Holy One of Israel, in returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and confidence shall be your strength, and ye would not. But ye said, No, for we will flee upon horses. Therefore shall ye flee, and we will ride upon the swift. Therefore shall they that pursue you be swift." So, and this, I mean, we could go through the chapter and see that this is talking about the time just prior to the setting up of the kingdom. And what it's saying here is the Lord is saying, in returning and rest, you'll be saved. And they're saying, no, we're not going to do that. And so he says, you would not. In other words, it was a time of peace, right? And the Lord was giving them the opportunity. Look, I'll return you to the lands of your fathers now in the time of peace. But they said, no, we will not. And he said, therefore, they said, no, those who basically we're going to be chased and we're going to have to go in a time of trouble. And the Lord is saying, okay, well, if you want to go in a time of trouble, then you're going to have to go in a time of trouble. That's basically what happened. So, in other words, it was giving, just in the love and mercy of God, they were given an opportunity to go in a time of peace, but they refused, so they really have no excuse when they have to go in a time of war. That's kind of the nutshell of it.
So they didn't actually go over there, as this would have been addressed to Ben Roden, and he didn't go over there.
No, it was addressed to the Adventists, and they didn't go over there. Because Ben Roden did go over there, and he set things up so that it was possible. The Lord used him, like, there was actually, before Ben Roden went, there was no believers in Christ who ended up even immigrating to Israel. Like, the branch was the first Christian group to go over to Israel since the 1940s. And so,
isn't there a piece of land still there? Because I've been there before, but Rebecca's been there since then. Rebecca, tell them about what you told me, that there is still land there and people who, I don't know what they're doing, but are they not a bunch of Christians?
I would imagine Trent's probably familiar with it, that it was in Amran, and those people in Amran, this is amazing to me, but when I was getting ready to go over to Israel, I contacted some places up in Amran because I wanted to get some information about the Davidians that had been there. And one of the businesses that I was in touch with, they said, oh, don't you know the whole town of Amran, we're all vegetarians? And I said, no, I didn't know that. How come you're a vegetarian? They said, oh, there were some branch believers that came over here way back in the 70s, and they set up the whole town here. They give credit to Ben and Lois for their whole little town being there and still being vegetarian. It's really
Boy,
awesome.
would I like to go there. I'd like to meet them.
Yeah, it's actually, there was 3 vegetarian villages that they set up there, and Amarim is the one that's still remaining. 2 of them, I'm not sure exactly the history behind what happened to the other 2, but they're no longer remaining. But yeah, Amarim is still there, still vegetarian. But yeah, just Lonnie, the thing you were saying, that's what was being spoken of in Isaiah 30. That was something that the Lord was saying to the Adventists, and he gave Ben Roden to give them that message of saying, hey, look, you guys have this opportunity, but they refused to go, right? And he sent letters. It was to Davidians, and he sent letters to the conference and everything, the General Conference of Seventh Adventists. And
Well,
said,
wouldn't that be the same experience as what they're doing now, though? They've, as a system of Adventism, they've never believed that God is going to set up a kingdom in Israel. So I guess I'm just saying, how would have Ben Roden made a difference in comparison to Victor Houda?
right, well, the difference is that what he was doing is he actually got space for 150,000 Adventists to go there. And it was set up that all they had to do was get up and go. Right? In other words, it had become real that, hey, look, you can go right now, and it's already set up for you. Right? And
So this is sort of a falling like 1888 then, of course, earlier, though.
Right. Well, it was basically, they had the opportunity. It was so plain in front of them. And he just put it in practical language, right? And put it in a sense, he kind of even addressed it saying, hey, look, according to what you guys understand as Seventh-day Adventists, you guys believe that the General Conference is going through to the very end, and you believe that there's going to be Sunday laws coming here. Now, you know that you can't be running as an organization with Sunday laws in the United States. And he was saying, look, over in Israel, they already keep the Sabbath. So, and he was quoting Ellen White to them and showing where she said that they were supposed to set up the conference in Washington, but if the Lord should ever give them instructions to move, they were supposed to move. And so he was showing them all these things and different prophecies and, just saying, and some people, he even had some success with, like him and Lois actually sat down at some point with HMS Richards. And even though HMS Richards was one of the guys who was part of the committee of 12 men who were part of rejecting the Rod message in 1934, HMS Richards ended up admitting that Israel does have a part to play in latter-day prophecy. And, the church still didn't go forward and do it, which is why they'll have to go in a time of war now or in a time of trouble. But it was really giving them an opportunity and making it clear as day and showing, even just for practical reasons, it doesn't make sense to stay here, and Israel is the place to go.
It was also proven to them that, you know what, look, I got 150,000 people approved by the Israeli government for anyone from the U.S. to come here, so whatever excuse you give is not valid enough because they were willing to give 150,000 people residency here in Israel. So what real excuse can you say that this could never happen when it literally has happened? So he made it possible to show that it's possible. Done.
So would have this been a separation of the wheat and tares for those who would have should have there been 150,000 Adventists going over there? The other, however many Adventists there were at that time, would have that initiated a separation of the wheat and tares?
Well, if they would have, then without a doubt, it would have been a separation in the way that you're saying of wheat and tares and everything. However, obviously the Lord already knew that they weren't going to go, which is why there's prophecy here in Isaiah. But it's, and Michael's pointing out, just like 1844 and 1888 for that matter, but it would have been, a lot, the work would have been able to be finished very fast. If people,
so it is true. It's just a matter of the reasoning behind it, and not taking it as a negative thing that what Ben Roden did, but taking it as something that could have been progressive for Davidia and the church.
Right, because the way that most Davidians, most Davidians look at it, they don't even look at any of the reasons why or any of the Bible prophecies in relation to it. They just say, "Oh well, Ben went to Israel, and and then just state it negatively, and that's supposed to be evidence against the branch for some reason."
So what have they been like establishing flight or what? Like when God takes his people over to the kingdom, I understand it's going to be a phenomenal event with the removal of the tares. So I mean, was it a deal of them taking airplanes over, or what? How would have that worked?
Well, the way it would have been mostly by plane, I assume. There's different, even Victor Hodoff talking about going to the kingdom, though. Victor Hodoff, in his study on Isaiah chapter 60, Hodoff talks about them getting there in various ways. When he talks about, like, Isaiah 60, it actually says, starting at verse 6, or actually also at verse 5, it says, "Then shalt thou see and flow together, and thine heart shall fear and be enlarged, because the abundance of the sea shall be converted unto thee, and the forces of the Gentiles shall come unto thee." So clearly talking about the kingdom. And it says, "The multitude of camels shall cover thee, and the dromedaries of Midian and Ephah. All they from Sheba shall come, and they shall bring gold and incense, and they shall shew forth the praises of the Lord. All the flocks of Kedar shall be gathered together unto thee, and the rams of Nebaioth shall minister unto thee. They shall come up with acceptance upon mine altar, and I will glorify the house of my glory. Who are these that fly as a cloud, and as doves to their windows? Surely the isles shall wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish first, to bring their sons from far, their silver, and etc., etc." The part there is, who are these that fly as a cloud? And then the next verse talks about going on ships. Victor Hodoff, in his comments on that, says, here we see that in going to the kingdom, people will go by air and by sea. And he also comments elsewhere by land, obviously, for those who are able to go by land.
But wouldn't that be applicable to the great multitude, though?
That is applicable to the great multitude.
Yeah.
In this verse here. But the point is that he's saying that people will get there in various ways. And even when Ben Roden was talking about it, there's other prophecies that refer to a branch remaining in the land. I mean, even Isaiah 4, where it talks about, in that day shall the branch of the Lord be beautiful, and so on. The context of that, in his studies, he shows about how there's different prophecies that show a branch remaining in the land. Zechariah 14 has a similar type of concept where Jerusalem will be sieged, but there will be those righteous remaining, and that's from among Victor Hodoff comments, Jews and Arabs and Christians. And what Ben Roden was pointing out, there's different prophecies as well relating to the wave chief, and he was pointing out there's the wave chief has the opportunity to go to Israel ahead of time, right? And
so isn't this sort of, are we applying this to the persecution in the time of the mark of the beast that we're to be looking at here in comparison to prior to 1798?
Are you talking about the time of trouble that they'll have to go through now that they refuse to go in the time of safety?
Yeah, well, I suppose, yeah, because you're talking about a time of safety in the days of Ben Roden,
right?
But yet there's going to come, the mark of the beast, and it would have been, however, whatever future from Ben Roden's time, even future from our time today. Mm-hmm. So I mean, is that the antitype, or like Ellen White says, that the events of the past will be repeated? The persecution of Rome during the Dark Ages will be repeated. So that would be the repetition of it. But while they were in peace, they were going to go over there.
Yeah, they had the opportunity in the time of
Right.
peace.
Okay.
And yeah, so that's basically, it's just God showing His mercy, right?
So this is sort of an antitype, you're saying, of Moses leaving the Egypt, going to Israel. You mentioned Moses, the actions of Moses in the past.
You're asking if when Ben Roden went there, if that's an antitype of that?
Right.
Not necessarily. I mean, you're talking about when he went, like the actual Exodus with Israel?
Well, yeah, with Moses and
Right.
going over to Israel from Egypt, yeah.
No, what Ben Roden did wasn't the antitype of that. When God's people finally do go, it'll be the antitype of that. But
Pardon me?
I said when God's people finally do go,
Okay.
it will be the antitype of the Exodus. But
yeah, but wouldn't that be essentially the same thing, though? I mean, if Ben Roden's actions would have freed Adventism from the mark of the beast in a time of peace, then if the future events from us are to be antitypical, wouldn't his event be antitypical?
Okay, that's right. I thought you were saying that what actually happened if that was the antitype. But
Oh, no.
I get what you're saying now. If they had gone, then that would have been the antitype.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And the other thing, I'm pretty satisfied with that answer. I'll have to write a paragraph to make it clarified for others. But the other thing that Len and others could have this controversy on is the branch being a new name for Jesus. I guess it is.
Right. Now, the objection that I've heard Lynn say is, oh, that's not a new name because it's been in the Bible all along, right?
Right, okay, sure, or whenever it was applied.
Right. Now, the thing with that, there's a few aspects to that. First of all, we're told by Victor Hodeff in his study on the types of Joseph and gathering the grain into the storehouse that all the truth was gathered into the Old Testament scriptures, and everything this side is explaining what's in the Old Testament. So Christ's new name must be in some way revealed in the Old Testament. So that's the first thing. The other thing is that, according to Victor Hodeff, the new name would be revealed at the end of the 430 years. Now, in the 400, when Victor Hodeff said that, he didn't explain why he said that. But when we look in the scriptures, we can see that the reason why Victor Hodeff was saying that the new name would be revealed at the end of the 430 years is because in the type, that's exactly what happened, right? Moses, at the end of the 430 years, starting from Abraham, he was given the name Jehovah, right? I mean, you read Genesis 6, and God said, by Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I was known as El Shaddai, but by my name Jehovah, I was not known unto them. Which is interesting, because in Genesis 22:14, Abraham named a place Jehovah Jireh. So he knew the name Jehovah, right? But yet in Genesis 6, it says that God says, they knew me by El Shaddai, and they didn't know me by my name Jehovah. So essentially what it is that even though in the end of the 430 years, when Moses received the name Jehovah, even though that is when he received it as the name of God, the name was still known as at least a title prior to that time, but it wasn't known as his name. And so it's the same thing with the branch. The branch was revealed at the end of the 430 years, from 1525 to 1955, and it was revealed as Christ's new name, but the name was known as a title prior to that time. It's just the same as what happened in the type.
Okay. That answer was relatively overwhelming, but yeah, it's something that can.
I like how you said that. Relatively overwhelming.
Well, it's you know, my mind is still on the other thing, and there's a lot to chew on. I come out with questions sometimes, or other people's questions that I have to establish it all in my mind yet,
Right.
and it takes time. I mean,
Oh,
taking
definitely.
a bite of the pie on the Roden thing is a big issue itself.
Right. Okay, well that's good. Well, if you want me to like send you an email with that brief explanation that I just gave about the new name,
Yeah, yeah.
I
If
can
you
send it to you have it.
this is stuff that you could record and
What is that
actually.
now, actually?
Is that on here?
Yeah.
Praise the Lord. But
Yeah. Yeah. So okay, that's good. And I guess you can look into that if I send you a quick email about that or whatever too.
yeah, right now I'm still on the carpenters, so you
Okay.
emphasized that I should finish that study, and I'm probably about a third of the way through it, and I got to find my place again from, I don't know, the last time I was reading it, and
Right.
I will, because I don't know what we were talking about. I don't really remember what we were talking about that you emphasized getting through that. And other than that, it's still the seven thunders that you know, everyone's mind is on getting answers for that, and
Yeah.
so it's all a matter of consolidating it all together in the mind's eye to make sense of it.
Indeed.